Okay, where we left off was we were about to add a picture into this profile page, and let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and I could either add media or I could do a featured image. Now, I'm a little bit not so thrilled about the idea of doing a featured image because it's going to be gigantic and I don't necessarily want a giant picture of myself. What I could do instead is put a smaller snapshot here, and then maybe for the featured image put something that's a little bit more meaningful to me if I decide that that's important. But let's go ahead and add the media, and it's already uploaded here into the area that for the media files. So I could come down below and I can find where it says full size, and let's do a 300 by 300. I don't think I need it to be 500 pixels. So, and then instead of center, we'll just maybe say left for right now. So we'll insert that, and then you see there's a picture of me, and that seems to be okay. And then if I wanted to add something else down here, I could, like maybe a piece of my work if I wanted to, but this isn't necessarily about the other stuff that I do. You know, you could personalize it if you wanted to. You could put a gallery of other things that you do or interests or whatever. That's fine. I'm not going to do that. And I want you to notice here that I don't have it set for a parent. All right, so I'm not going to have any parents. And like I said before, I'm not sure about a featured image right now. So let's just see how it shows up as a published image or as a published page. Oh, and before I do that, one thing I actually did notice is that I don't have my name here. If you remember, I changed this so that it would say contributors and not, you know, about the author or about my name or whatever. So it makes sense that later, whenever I have other people added, that we would start off by having our name. And because this is floating left, or it's a line left, one of the problems is that it's kind of tricky about where to put your cursor here. So if you're ever, you know, concerned about that or confused, you can always click over here to text, and you can come up here before the caption, before the image ID, and you could actually just type something like this, and you can come right back up here in the visual editor and you can highlight it and change it and actually apply a heading level to it. So we'll do that. We'll say Lee Kotner, and then I will select this and I will make it an H2 since it will be under contributors, which is an H1. All right, so that's the first thing. And then the other thing too that I would go ahead and do is put a horizontal rule down there so that it would be prime and ready for the next contributor. So let's update that and we'll take a peek at it. So now I can come up here and say view page. And I could have done that in a new window, but I didn't. So here we go. And it shows the contributors page, and it's got my name and it's got some information about me. And if I wanted to have other stuff in there, I could, you know, especially if I wanted to put a feature image, like if I was a surfer. I'm not. I wish I could say I was. Then I might put a picture up here of me surfing or something, but that's not me. So anyway, here's my page. Now, one of the things you'll notice though is that there really isn't a place over here for pages. So that's kind of a problem, right? You know, we don't really have anything. We don't even have a way of getting there. If I were to go back to the main website, you know, hopefully we could say, oh, well, there's going to be something there, but there's not. This theme is no good for pages. It's really intended only to be something for posts in a blogging atmosphere. So this is where we would want to go back to the dashboard, and we could have just jumped straight to themes, but one of the things that we should probably go ahead and do is add a couple of other things. Like we wanted to add a contact page. So let's just add that really fast. And even if we don't put anything, you know, really interesting on it right now, let's just put it in there as a placeholder. So we'll say contact. And the reason for that is I'll show you how you can deal with stuff whenever you're doing custom menus and things like that. So on our contact page, we could say get in touch or something like that. Something kind of catchy, and I'm just going to put some stuff right here. That's a temporary placeholder. We'll put a heading level there, and I'm not going to give it a parent. We'll just publish that. Okay. All right. So now that that's done, we still know that there's no place there for us on the real website, so there's no point in going to look for it. This is where it's really important that you start thinking about looking for themes. that are actually going to work for you. But before we do that, one of the things that we really should consider doing, now that we actually have real post content and real categories and stuff, is that we should really consider going back into our plugin for the WP example content. We should come in here and we should basically remove those other entries, because the only reason that we were using those is because we didn't have any other content to see what the styles were going to look like. And now that we're here, it looks like it's giving us some strange undefined index notice that we weren't getting before. I'm not too worried about that, because what I really care about at this moment is removing the posts. If it doesn't allow me to remove the posts, then I might be a little bit more concerned. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to click on remove all sample posts. And it says that they were removed. So what we can do is we can come back into posts and we can double check and make sure that they really are in fact gone. And you see that all we're left with still is this hello world. So it really did remove it. So I'm going to actually get rid of hello world. I'm going to click on trash and it's going to trash that for me. And so really that'll just leave my 6 important posts, the ones that I actually care about. And then the other thing that you could come and do if you wanted to deactivate that plugin so that it doesn't show up down here anymore. It's always a good idea to deactivate plugins that are not in use, because sometimes they can cause conflicts with other plugins. So I'm going to deactivate it, and you see now it's deactivated because A, it's not bolded here, but also because it says activate. That means that it's currently not enabled. Okay, so now that we've done that, we could come back and we can refresh our page here, and you can see right out of the box, it looks dramatically different from the last thing that we were using. And so like if I were to click this menu, I get this side menu that's, all this stuff is customizable, by the way, but it's actually a pretty nice theme. And I can click this and it scrolls down for me, and it looks like it's highlighting each of these posts. And when you hover over it, you can see that it actually turns darker. And one of the things that you could also test and see is how it treats responsive design. And one of the things that I might be a little bit curious about is, you know, some of this text I find is a little bit difficult to read with the pictures in the background. And so, you know, one of the things we could look at is the opacity something that is configurable? Is the color of this text configurable? And, you know, because if you can't hover, you know, on a phone, I don't know because I haven't tested it yet on a phone, whether or not it actually is dark like this. I have a feeling it's not. And so this might be hard to read without having that darkened hover state. So those are some things that you might think about, but right out of the box, it actually looks pretty nice and it seems to be working pretty well. But let's just jump back over here. And like I said before, if you wanted to just double check and look at the widgets again, you can see that the widgets are going to look a certain way. And then what we'll do is we'll compare the widgets. So you've got this homepage menu widget area and the post menu widget area and so forth. You can look at this and see how that's going to change if in fact we go back over to themes and deactivate that theme. So we can make 2015 active again just by clicking this button in themes. And let's jump back into widgets now. And you will see that in fact it looks different. It doesn't say home page widget area. It just says widget area. And so we haven't really discussed widgets yet, but it's really important to understand that different themes are going to have different options available. And every once in a while, if you get a really kind of crummy theme, like a bad theme, excuse me, that will write posts and or pages in a weird way in the database that no other theme can access, sometimes you might pick a theme and then start creating a bunch of content. And then you go and you realize it's not a good theme and you try something else and like suddenly you can't access that content. That means that you kind of had a bad theme. And so it's a really good idea to add the content kind of the way that we did on a really basic theme like the 2015 or some kind of theme that comes with WordPress, and then go find themes and, you know, see how they rearrange stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here to themes now, and we'll search for some more. And one of the things I did do, I paused this real quick, and I did reactivate this big Pics, and I tested it on my phone. And actually, it was kind of nice because whenever you touched and dragged, it would become darkened, and so you could see it. But it actually did have some other stuff that I didn't like about it. So if I activate it again, I can show you some other things that I didn't like. And let's just test it out real quick. Okay, so if I come over here, one of the things that I didn't care for is that if I, for instance, click on Scriptspear and I go and I look at the actual article, this yellow color, by default anyway, is, it's insanely crazy, bright, intense. I personally hate that. So one of the things that I very well may be able to do is I very well might be able to go and change that in the styles if there's some sort of styling. So I'd have to poke around the theme in the back a little bit. But you know, this is just too much for me. It might really work well for some other styled things, but this just doesn't do it for me. So that thing right out of the box isn't going to work. Another issue is that where it says my favorite places, I'm still going to change the name of this website, by the way, but one of the theme problems with this is out of the box on portrait view on a phone is that it starts to hyphenate this in a really weird way. Again, there might be some really simple places where I could go find some styling options, but I just didn't find any right off the bat. So anyway, what I could do is now click on Add New again, and I can go look for some other themes in a different place. I could keep looking under Featured, right? That's one option. Another thing that I could do is look under maybe Popular or Latest, and keep looking, and you can just install stuff directly from here. And my recommendation is it's fine to install a bunch of stuff, but when you're backing things up, you might want to really think twice about backing up your entire theme folder if you know that really all you're using is like one theme. And the reason for that is because the themes are going to be gigantic if you back up, like if you have 10 of them installed on the server, that means you have to download 10 theme folders. That's a lot. So it's something to think about, just to consider. You don't have to back up all of your themes if you know you're only using one of them. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and download some and we'll test some, but that way you don't have to watch me do this. Okay, so I did go and download a bunch of themes, and these are some of the ones I looked at. Full frame, Gridsby, which does require a lot of customization, but it does have some pretty explicit instructions. It does some really cool stuff though. Hathor, and it was okay. It didn't, it was for my needs. It was okay. It wasn't anything amazing. The clean one was fine. There were a lot of these that were sort of fine. This one was actually kind of nice, but I didn't really care for the way that the menu looked. And this one's actually really nice, but it's one of those that is really, really, it's a teaser. It's really restrictive, and then when you get really excited about it, you realize that they want you to pay for all the really cool stuff. But I will show you this in just a minute, because it actually is kind of a nice one, and there might be some workarounds for you if you decided that you didn't want to use it. So right now I still have the big Pics installed, and one of the things that we can do is, if you look back here, one of the concerns that I had was the yellow. The yellow's not so bad here, but like I said before, whenever you would go to the page, and you would see this yellow highlight everywhere, it's pretty outrageous. And for some themes it might be fine, or for some websites it might be fine, but for this one where it's highlighting and surrounding like really nice photography, it's very distracting from the photography. So that doesn't really work for me. So if I go back over to where it says customize under appearance, while this is active, then I can start to customize.